So you guys remember how a little over a month ago, EA responded to the not great reception of Dragon Age the Veilguard while talking on like an earnings call, going through their numbers and their books and everything, adjusting guidance because it didn't do great. This was the article and the time where they said that they engaged, quote unquote, engaged 1.5 million players with Dragon Age Veilguard, falling short of almost 50% of what they had expected. The term engaged, doing a lot of heavy lifting, because that is not sold 1.5 million copies, it's engaged 1.5 million players, which suggests that they're counting like returned copies. They're counting maybe people using family sharing sales. Like I think they're really stretching to hit that 1.5 million player number. It's probably more like 1.3, it would be my guess, but either way, they still fell 50% short of what they had expected internally, which tells me two things. I mean, number one, it tells me that I don't think they were ever expecting this to turn a profit. I think they knew that it was going to lose money after being in development for so long and changing from like single player to live service back to single player. I think they knew they were going to lose money. They just were hoping to lose less money than they ended up losing, but they still lost a lot. And the second thing is that Veilguard, I mean, it severely underperformed. And I think it reaffirms something that we've seen a lot, which is that word of mouth is a powerful thing in the games industry. You have to have positive word of mouth. Otherwise, your game will tank. Like, we are not in the age of 2012 gaming anymore, where you are primarily trying to get the Metacritic score high. Like, that helps, certainly. But if the game is really good and people are telling their friends to go buy it and play it, that will do way more than an extra couple points on Metacritic. Because what happened with Veilguard is that they locked down the review period and process. They only gave codes out to reviewers they considered kind of safe bets. And that kind of backfired in a couple instances, like with Maddie and SkillUp, who, you know, trashed the game and panned it. And then they didn't give codes out to a lot of other people they had promised it to. So there were just some weird things that happened with it. But, you know, it kind of went the way a lot of us could have, you know, expected it to. And it's too bad that it ended up the way that it did, because I thought it had a lot of potential based on that preview event. It just turns out at the preview event, they showed us literally every single cool thing the game had. And then everything else in the game was kind of bad, but they heavily implied and even outright said that, no, there's way more choices in the rest of the game. This is only Act 1. There's tons more to see. And I was like, if that's true, this is going to be awesome. Turns out it wasn't true, and that they showed us literally the only cool stuff in the game. But anyway, that's beside the point. With this, though, they said that they thought they knew why this had happened. Basically, the argument from EA was that Andrew Wilson said that the games needed to align with the changing expectations of players who prioritize quote unquote shared world features and quote unquote deeper engagement alongside compelling narratives. In other words, he expected the game to have been more successful if it had featured live service elements. Because that verbiage, shared world features, deeper engagement, that all means live service. That's what he says when he discusses FC, Madden, all of their live service games. That's what he says. Deeper engagement, shared world features with different rosters and things. That's what he's talking about. So this is pretty bizarre, because I think anybody who they needed to buy Veilguard would say more live service features would have done it even more of a disservice. Like, even fewer people would have bought it and engaged with it if they were like, ooh, yeah, and it's also going to have a battle pass. Like, no, that would have pissed off even more. So it's just delusional. But as with all of these things, there's kind of two sides of the coin, right? There's the one where it could be that the executive is honestly portraying what he thinks and what he believes to be true. The other side of it is that it could just be that he's telling investors what he thinks they want to know. That's been the trouble with Warner Brothers games as well, because they've been telling investors, we want to take all of our big IP and turn them live service. That's the future, which would imply their biggest game that's upcoming, Hogwarts Legacy 2, it would imply that that will have live service stuff. That's what they're suggesting to investors. But then Jason Schreier comes out and says, nope, it's not being developed as live service. It will be purely single player. So they're telling investors one thing and they're doing something else, or at least it appears to be that way, which is very interesting and causes, you know, frustration and concerns with investors. But then, you know, with EA, you don't know if they're being honest, that they actually think that Dragon Age would have done better if it was live service. I wouldn't be surprised if they honestly think that, but you just don't really know. Either way, though, EA just published another game, which is already in the contention for Game of the Year, which is Split Fiction. Actually, the highest rated on Metacritic game that EA has put out in, I think, close to 10 years, maybe even more. It's been reviewed very, very positively, and it's already sold over 1 million copies in its first 48 hours, which is a tremendous milestone. I mean, that's fantastic. And it seems to be significantly outperforming It Takes Two, which of course won Game of the Year in 2021 and was received very positively as well, obviously. And it sold quite well. But even if you look at like Steam concurrent player numbers, they were well over 200,000 with Split Fiction, and It Takes Two was at like in the 80s. So the game is performing very, very well, and it is like aggressively pro-consumer. Not only does it have no live service elements, it's a co-op game that they encourage you to play in couch co-op, but even if you play remotely through co-op online, you only have to buy 1 copy, and then you download a free friends pass, and then the friend can play with you without buying it.
Donated $10.
It's brilliant. The point of this, though, is that this is a major sales milestone that seems to directly contradict what EA has said a matter of weeks ago, which is that these types of single player or co-op games, these games not featuring live service stuff, can't be successful, and that they need live service elements because that's where the industry is trending towards. And the thing to remember is that like FIFA, Madden, or I guess it's not FIFA anymore, FC, Madden, all of those, they are massive games. They have millions upon millions upon millions of players, and they make literal billions of dollars. They print money. Nobody's denying that. But that does not mean that there's not a place for these types of games, as we are seeing right now. They still sell very well. People love them. They get critically acclaimed and all of that. But I think what happens so often with these executives is that they look at the massive exception to the rule, the massively successful live service games, and then they say, oh, so millions upon millions of players are playing Madden. Therefore, if we make a what would have been a single player game, but we make it live service like Madden and put in all that monetization, it will do just as well. And it just fundamentally misunderstands how broad gamers are and how the people playing Madden are often not the same people playing It Takes Two or Split Fiction or Spider-Man or Red Dead 2. They're different players. I mean, even in this stream earlier in chat, we had people coming in who are saying, I primarily play FPS games. I primarily play live service games, but I want to try single player games. Where do I go? What should I try? And that right there shows that there are a lot of people that play live service, and that's primarily what they play. And moving into single player is like a shift for them. And it's true vice versa, where there's people who play single player games and don't really play many live service games. Or if they do, it's not their main outlet. It's not their bread and butter. They're not spending hundreds of dollars on it. In the same vein, where was this one? Do you guys remember? Yeah. Do you remember this story just a couple days ago where XQC was saying gamers will, referring to GTA 6 costing $100. He says gamers will sprinkle $300 worth of skins in a year, but suddenly $100 is too much. But it's because they're different audiences. The people that are spending $300 a year on skins in a multiplayer game, they're not the same people that played Red Dead 2. There's some crossover, sure, but these are different groups. They're different markets. And these executives get into trouble when they assume that they're the same, because they're not. They're just not. And it's like XQC is ridiculously rich. So maybe let's not look to him for advice on what's a reasonable price. Maybe we don't do that. Robert, thank you for the 19 months. It is why I stopped buying sports games, because they went from focus on single player to gacha live service games. Well, yeah, and it's just, they print money. Nobody's denying that, but it's just frustrating to see how all these years later in the industry, you still have executives that don't seem to understand that the people playing FIFA or Madden or FC, whatever, are not the same people that are going to be buying your next Dragon Age game. They're not the same people that are going to be playing the next Mass Effect game. Like, they're just different audiences. They're different customer bases. And until they can grasp that they're different, I don't know what the hell they're going to do. It's the same reason why, like, I'm really skeptical of like the Horizon live service game from Guerrilla, because I don't know if the Horizon fan base that loved Forbidden West and Zero Dawn, I don't know if those people go for a Fortnite skinned Monster Hunter clone that's live service. Like I just don't know if those people move over. And if those people don't move over, okay, who then is going to be your player base? The Fortnite players? I don't think so. Like the Monster Hunter players, they just got Monster Hunter, you know? Like I don't think it spills over. The Daddiest Pickle, fantastic username. Keyword Rocksteady. They've had multiple Game of the Year editions of their games, and Suicide Squad has barely 100 players concurrent. Well, exactly. And I think they really thought there's kind of the two layers to it, where they thought that the player bases would like spill over, and everybody that loved Arkham Knight and Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, they'll move over and play Suicide Squad. So that's a lot of players. And Rocksteady is great. They made all these super successful single player games. So now they're doing live service. They will print money, and it'll be a Game of the Year live service game. Boom. We'll be like Overwatch. We'll win Game of the Year with our live service game. And pretty clearly that didn't happen because it's not the same. With Rocksteady, though, it's more complicated because apparently that was like the studio's idea. The people at Rocksteady wanted to do that. So I think they started to believe their own hype. I generally think EA's strategy is to have Moneymaker Studios and Award Studios. It used to be BioWare and now it's Hazelight. Yeah, and that's honestly not a bad idea. There is a prestige that comes with having Game of the Year nominees. And the other thing is, like, a lot of people have talked about this, but executives love their shiny trophies. They just do. They just do. Like, there are certainly some executives who are fine with being the heel of the industry, who are fine with being hated. Think of like the Bobby Kotick type guys, former CEO of Activision. Think of those guys. Like, they're fine with being the supervillain because they're making ridiculous amounts of money. But there are also a lot of executives who want to be loved. I think that's one of the things with like Ubisoft. I think like the Guillemot brothers desperately want to be loved. You know, Todd. I don't think Todd, you know, he puts on a strong face, but I don't think he's happy with how his company is viewed nowadays. I think he wished that, you know, he was back in the 2011 era where they were all like, you know, BGS could do no wrong. So, you know, there's certainly some like sociopathic types out there who just don't care, but there's a lot of executives and head honchos at these studios and publishers who want to go to the Game Awards and have the applause. They want to have the shiny trophy on their desk. They want that. And so for EA, I think having the trophy studios like Hazelight, BioWare makes sense for them, even if it's not necessarily the most profitable. He took my thing.